father's older than you, and he tells me stories about, you know, how he grew up and he worked on a plantation. And he did say, you know, he got along with,
I don't
you know,
care.
a lot of white
I
neighbors
was
and stuff.
there.
He was there before
And
you.
black
He's
people
older than
and
you.
white people got along
He's older than
way
you.
better than they do today.
What?
Because the white people are sick of the black people. Everybody's
You said
sick of
sick and dogs on them? What'd you say?
I said that white people and black people
water
got along
hoses?
way better than they are today.
You said the water hoses?
I said that white people are sick of the blacks complaining.
You said the lynchings?
So what though?
The lynchings?
Did you know that there were, I think, something like 4,000 blacks who owned slaves?
4,000 blacks who own slaves?
In Kentucky or
No.
one of those areas.
What
You didn't
source
know
is that? No, what's your source?
One of my hosts talked about it the other day
Who?
on the show. But you didn't know that.
No,
huh?
what's the source?
Oh, your little Black Supremacy book. You didn't look that up.
No. What source is that?
Let's do this. We'll
That's
get it
a
for
lie.
you. Put it up there.
You ever heard of the book by James Lowe, The Lies My History Teacher Told Me? That would be in it. That's a lie.
Why don't black people just kind of move on with their lives and stop this mess that they're into? If they're superior, why don't they somehow or another let their little superior stuff kick in and stop blaming and living in the past, which had nothing to do with them, by the way. Living in the past and blaming the whites and others. At what point will they say, you know what, we had enough complaining and being victims and talking about this mess. Let's show everybody what we can do. Why don't they forget about the past and live in the present?
Well, the past affects the present.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
Not if you don't live in it.
It's no way to get around it. It does.
Yes, there's a way to get around it.
The past is still in the present.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Only in your mind.
Nope. In 2015, in Miami, Florida, they were shooting at, in a police department, they were shooting at black civilians' pictures, mugshots, at a police department.
When was this?
In 2015, in Miami, Florida. 2015?
What year is it now?
That's 8 years ago.
What year is it right now?
2023.
But what's the purpose of living in the past?
So yesterday is the past.
What's the purpose of living in yesterday?
You have to know your history in order for history not to repeat itself and to improve yourself.
That's not true.
That is true.
Knowing your history is what makes things worse. So if black people know their history, they've been talking about this mess for years, right? Knowing their history, why are they still repeating the same thing over and over again?
They don't know their history. If you know the history that's in this book, they know the history that they want to teach. When we talk about systemic racism, do you know that in 2015...
You believe that racism exists?
Yes.
And what is racism?
I'll tell you. So racism is the unfair treatment of one group of people based on their race, or the belief that one group of people is inferior solely based off their race. So
you are racist for believing that black people are superior to others?
For saying that we have superior resilience.
Are you a racist for believing that black people are superior to all other races, you said?
No, I'm not racist.
But you just said that was racism.
No, I said solely based on race. Mine is not solely based on race.
So you believe...
Mine are based off black accomplishments and black oppression.
So racism is a belief that one race is superior to another, right?
Solely based on race.
But racism is, according to you, a belief that one race is better than the other.
Solely based on race, correct.
And so if white people think they're better because they do better than black people, they see that they're smarter, they're more innovative.
They're not smarter. They're not more innovative.
They're more or less to blame others and carry on.
No, they're not.
Does that make them superior to the blacks?
Nothing you said was true.
Does that make them superior,
no,
racist to the black because they do more?
They don't do more.
They do more.
What do you mean they do more?
They're keeping the country going while black people are chasing them, trying to get it and destroying it.
Destroying what?
Everything they touch.
I'm black. I don't destroy everything I touch.
You may be one black that don't, but most blacks do.
No, most blacks do what?
Destroy.
Prove that.
Who killed other blacks the most?
Blacks. And who kills other whites
who
the most?
turned nice
No, 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 no,
neighborhood?
no, no.
Who turned
No,
nice
no,
neighbor?
no.
I'm giving you the
Who?
proof.
But no, but who kills
Who
other whites the
turned nice
most?
neighborhoods
But that's
into
intellectually
hoods?
dishonest. That's
Who
intellectually
turned nice
dishonest.
neighborhoods into hoods?
Bad people.
Who? Now you change it.
No.
Who turned nice neighborhoods into hoods?
Hood people.
Who are those hood people?
Hoodlums.
I'm giving you a hint.
It's a skin color, but what's the hint there? Who? Which people are those? You ever read the book by?
Are you a Democrat?
You ever read the book by Thomas Sowell? It's Black Rednecks, White Liberals. You ever read that book?
No.
So he talks about the white people that you're talking about with the skin color there. Thingy.
Are you a Democrat?
No.
Were you ever a Democrat?
Yes.
And you're Republican? You Republican now?
No.
And how do you vote?
I'm nonpartisan. I vote based off of knowledge, and I do my due diligence. I study to see which group, which person, which people will do the most for black people.
Did you vote for the Great White Hope? How come? See, that's another sign of inferiority.
What's that?
You vote for those who are going to do the most for black people.
Right.
Right? If black people are so superior, why can't they do most for themselves?
In a system? In a system?
If black people are superior to all, why don't they do, why you got to always vote for somebody that's going to do something for the blacks?
All right, so you should either do that or don't vote at all.
Welcome back to Breakdown Friday. Joseph Ward, Patrick Irvin, Professor Carl Tone Jones, en route to your mama house. Yeah, I said it. We are here breaking down this video of Jesse Lee Peterson. I'm still not sure who the gentleman is that he was talking to, but interesting conversation nonetheless. The author of the book Black Supremacy, we're gonna look that up and see who that gentleman is in a minute, but an interesting conversation between Jesse Lee Peterson and this gentleman. And Jesse Lee seemed to have gotten the best of this gentleman in this interview with his coonish style of interviewing and praise for white America. But Jesse did ask a lot of good questions, and it did a lot of good prodding. And I thought that led to a good conversation, but I also thought that would lead to a better breakdown for us to be able to go through some of these things and some of the topics that were discussed in this conversation, because ultimately the gentleman was talking about the idea of Black supremacy, and Jesse Lee Peterson was pushing back against the idea of Black supremacy, but also challenging the idea of Black supremacy is that in conjunction with racism. And so, but like I say, it's a lot that was discussed in those 6 minutes. So we're gonna jump into these things and break it down and get a little deep, because Jesse Lee Peterson, and he when he closes his eyes, he see white. So yeah. All right. So Pat, we're gonna start with you, man. What was your overall thought on this exchange, the conversation, but also the gentleman's attempt to push the idea of Black supremacy?
So the gentleman's name is Dr. William James.
Dr. William James, okay.
Yeah. And the book just came out last year. I have not read it. But listening to the conversation, I will say I didn't hear anything that made me want to go read it.
Right.
It's funny because it's one of them conversations. As soon as I saw it, I have this cold reaction. I went and looked dude up because I was like, who is this and why is he being done like this?
Oh, that's easy. That's easy.
So that's why I know who he is and when the book came out, because I had to Google it while I was watching it. I don't know. I'm processing, so y'all forgive me. I don't really know what the point of that particular conversation was? Because I'm kind of like, okay, how did you wind up sitting in front of Jesse Lee? And did you not know? Were you just that desperate for publicity? What, like, I, I got a lot of questions about how everything before the camera turned on, how all that transpired.
They're like, bro, buddy, what you doing talking to Jesse Lee Peterson, man? Come on, bro.
So, and then just the failure to be able to articulate things that I'm assuming, I'm pretty sure he knew the answers to the questions, but he couldn't get it out for whatever reason. He was flustered, I think, flabbergasted, hoodwinked, bamboozled,
Run him
led
up.
astray, run amok.
All that.
I don't.
He's
I don't,
messed
yeah,
over.
bro. Yeah, like he. So, and I gotta believe the brother knows. You know, you don't write a 560-page book and not know nothing,
Right.
it's like
Unless you chat GPT'd it.
Well, so I gotta believe the brother knows some stuff, but that wasn't a good look for him in terms of interviews. And when I say this because a lot of people are sitting in front of disingenuous people trying to have genuine conversations that they're not equipped for.
That's my overall point, but go ahead.
Yeah, when you gotta learn how to read the room. Look, all you light working black supremacists, since that's what y'all calling yourselves now, y'all gotta learn how to read the goddamn room. You can go in serious as you want, but the moment you start getting trolled like that,
Bruh.
it's time to shift up the tactics.
Bruh.
You got to take some of that seriousness out of your voice and just start clowning and having fun. Because that's about all that's good that's going to come out of that. Either that or get up and walk out.
Jesse Lee is God tier trolling on this one, bro. Like it wasn't even funny, the level of troll that Jesse had on this one. So
I'm landed.
Well, you know, you can't go to Jesse Lee Peterson's show serious. Like I've seen Tariq Nasheed on there having fun. One of my favorite episodes I saw on there was DC Young Fly. I thought DC Young Fly came on there with the correct perspective. Go on there and just start clowning Jesse. Like why are you serious? Why are you seriously trying to promote the idea of black supremacy on Jesse Lee Peterson's show? Knowing who he is and knowing how he kissed white butt. I don't know. I don't know. PC, man, chime in. What are your thoughts on the brother's attempt to promote the idea of black supremacy on this particular show and just the overall idea of the conversation?
But first of all, man, I want everybody to see how I'm marveling out here. I'm out here in these streets, you know what I'm saying, saving Negroes every night. This is what I do when I'm not on the air. I'm out here patrolling, making sure the streets are safe. You know what I'm saying? Somebody got to perform security for the world, not just the city, the world. So,
there you go. On the way to somebody named Deborah House. There you go.
Hancock.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Better have my big piece of chicken. Listen, I was just, because I watched the clip and then I thought he tried to troll, but I just thought Jesse Lee was better at it. You know what I'm saying? And you know, to be inequipped, like I've seen Jesse Lee, like you better know, I've seen him flush the Umar on his show before. So you know what I'm saying? You gotta be prepared to deal with what comes to be on that platform. And sometimes I think people's egos get in the way of their talent, the level of talent. So he wasn't skilled enough to even be in that conversation. And so that's just one aspect of it. You know, Jesse Lee, if the white man ever needed a defense attorney, Jesse Lee signed up for free. You know what I'm saying? So he like they got a character on the Boondocks called Uncle Ruckus, he makes that character seem light. Like you would think that he was mimicking the character on the cartoon and not the other way around.
Nah,
You know what I'm saying?
nah.
And to talk about, like his talking points are so asinine, it's kind of really hard to go like to talk about him would be an insult to the intelligence of the people watching. To go back and forth about the talking points of one Jesse Lee Peterson, because he just listen. If you get on your knees, you can really slurp your way to the top. And you know what I'm saying? He is. It's like like snails need slime where they've been. That's kind of where Jesse Lee Peterson lives. So you know what I'm saying? To really break down to get to the bottom of the conversation. Let me focus on the other brother. You can't come in having a conversation talking about the tenets of Black supremacy and then get caught up and put in a situation where you can't defend it. You wrote a 560-page book, bro. I hope that shit's available on Audible. Ain't nobody reading it. And then you didn't put up, you did a terrible job of creating a situation where people will be even interested in turning the first page. You know what I'm saying? Because you look like he just got outclassed by a clown. So a clown outclass you, you know what I'm saying? And then you're supposed to be talking about this whole notion of Black superiority, this, that, and the other. And when you start talking about areas of superiority and things of that nature, when you can't even define what racism really is, you're using, the most modern version of the whatever description that's been used and uploaded, you know what I'm saying, to talk about racism, but that's not even the original definition of racism. There's no power aspect of it all, the power component, which actually is how racism works. Anybody can be prejudiced, anybody can be bigoted, but to exude racism means you have to have control over systems, and you have to have a way where you utilize that as a supreme way of maintaining control over everybody else. So it's not an instance of where I think I'm better than you, therefore I think I'm supreme to you. That's not the conversation. The supremacy part is talking about the systemic control in society. Now, if you want to be a racist, then you can talk about likes and don't likes and this, that, and the other, because that speaks more to the individual. But a system of racism, you can't talk about a system of racism when you can't fully define what it is.
Well, yeah, but I thought it set itself up anyway, just bringing in the idea of Black supremacy. And then, like you said, not fully being able to articulate what the definition of racism is, and Jesse Lee asking, well, isn't the idea of thinking that you're more superior than another race, isn't that racist? And he was like, well, yeah, but it had that idea of supremacy has to be based on race, has to be based on racism.
Right. So
are you not getting what you're saying?
He
no,
wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, because the book highlights the historical accomplishments of Black people who have made the most significant contributions to mankind in the face of oppression. The book addresses the negative behaviors that have intruded on Black culture and must be eliminated for Black people to thrive. Black supremacy defines what Black supremacists is while dissecting the system of racism Black people have endured historically. So basically, and he said it, he's basing Black supremacy off of the accomplishments that Black people have made in the face of oppression.
But okay, that's still race.
Right. He said it's what I'm saying. He set himself up. You set yourself up with that one. And Jesse Lee, being who he is, he stepped on that landmine right along with you and set you up and got you out here looking crazy.
Yeah, I will say that part kind of had me like, yo, what the hell is going on? Because I was very much like, all right, you're gonna use it, like PC said. That's the definition you're gonna rock with. Okay. Then he comes back the way he comes back, and now you out here looking like Bobo the Clown because you talking about I'm not just basing it off race. All right, well, what else are you basing it off of?
I'm basing it off
Black accomplishments.
That's race.
Right, that's race, man.
What are you talking about?
What are we doing? What is happening here right now?
Man, but see, this is because I've seen a number of Jesse Lee Peterson clips these past couple of days because I was just mulling through them and seeing what I wanted to choose. But this one was standing out because of the lack of depth in the conversation, the inability to defend himself, the inability to defend his point, but the arrogance that he's coming with it as well. It's like, bro, you got black folk out here. You already got Jesse Lee Peterson got black folk out here looking bad, but you sitting next to him, or you sitting across from him, trying to get your points across. You're not doing a good job. And then also Jesse says, he starts off in the beginning of the clip saying whites got along better with blacks in the past, and so. In my opinion, that's one of the traps that they throw out in the beginning to get you all to start to throw you off in the beginning, start to get you wrapped, to get you going from the beginning by saying something ludicrous as that. Like white people and black people had a better relationship. It was more unity, it was more harmony between black people and white people in the past, basically during slavery. White people liked black people better during slavery because black people were a lot more docile. They were actual slaves. But we all know, no matter what Jesse Lee Peterson says, we all know that black people and white people did not get along better in the past. But to even take the bait shows his inexperience.
So. Yeah, he was not he was not sufficiently equipped for the room he was sitting in. And again, I gotta say, he wrote, and I agree with PC, bro. It's got to be on Audible. Trust me. I wrote my book ain't half as long as yours. My book is only like 250 pages, something like that. Most of the purchases are on Audible. Your book, I don't see your book on Audible. You need to get that on Audible. But but yeah, you can't. It's just when you go into a space with somebody like Jesse Lee Peterson, and your goal is to communicate a serious message.
You failed going on Jesse Lee Peterson with the idea of communicating a serious message.
You've already fucked up. And then if we take it a step further, if he appears that he can rap with you, that's an L. Like, you ain't gotta. If he seems like he is on your level, it's an L.
Yeah. I mean, so because first of all, going into this realm, you have to understand his sole job is to defend white people at all costs, and I think it's I hope it's an act, but I believe to the core that he might believe some of this stuff. He's been saying it so long, but within the act, within that presentation of Jesse Lee Peterson, his whole mission is to defend everything white. White people haven't done anything wrong. There's no fallacy. There are no flaws. White is perfect. White is right. And it goes to the point when you're listening to him talk, he talks as if he's not black. Just like Uncle Ruckus, he talks as if he's another separate group, another separate racial group from black. So this is the person you're going in. You're supposed to go in. If you're going to go on this show, you go in and you start clowning him from the beginning. And you don't even take it serious. You don't even answer no real questions. You just clown him from the beginning and make it fun and look and try to make clips.
That's like you said, DC on fly.
Killed them. Right. And Jesse you can see Jesse, he had fun in that interview. He was laughing the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, I could see, honestly, I don't watch a lot of Jesse Lee, but in seeing that clip and a few others of the clips I've seen of him, I could see how somebody could go onto his show and have a good time disagreeing with him.
Yeah.
Because he don't seem like he take himself too seriously.
He doesn't, and that's the greatest part about his troll. So we've seen that with Tariq Nasheed, his exchanges with Tariq. Tariq had, even though Tariq was trying to get some points across, Tariq was throwing jokes. And I think at some point, Tariq was like, man, fuck it, this Jesse Lee, so we're just going to have fun. You ain't going to answer questions. I ain't going to answer questions. That's how we going to do it. Speaking of, when Jesse Lee mentioned that, black people, black people kill more black people than any other people. And then the guy was like, well, how many people kill white people? Like, we all know that, we all understand the proximity crime. If you don't know, go look it up, the proximity crime. And I put the FBI, because I have some FBI stats pulled up, and I put this link in the bio and the description. But if you go and look at like the statistics of violent crimes against different groups, whatever group you're a part of, that group has the highest levels of fatality or violent crimes against its own group. So there's proximity crime. Whites kill whites the most, blacks kill blacks the most, Asians kill Asians the most, Hispanics kill Hispanics the most. Like, we all know that. Jesse Lee know that. That's why he didn't answer the question. That's why he did everything. He did a great Barry Sanders in avoiding that question that the guy posed back to him. Because it was like, well, you know, blacks kill the more. Blacks are like, well, who killed the whites the most? He kept saying, who killed whites the most? Who killed whites the most? I would have stayed on it. Stay on it. Well, no, we're not going nowhere until you tell me who killed whites the most. Your show just gonna be messed up until you tell me who killed whites the most. I'm not moving. You got to go in there with some whole tendencies, because that's who you're dealing with.
Yeah, I mean, I think one, black people like, but then like, are you trying to sell a book? Are you trying to, like, what's your purpose for being here? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then even to that, what was your purpose of writing the book? Because to get off the interview and into the content of the subject, Black supremacist.
Yeah.
What is the purpose of that?
Right. What does it mean to be a Black supremacist? What does it mean for Black people to be supreme? Because, you know, you and I have heard this type of information and rhetoric in the Black conscious circles in the past. You know, and they're talking about genetic superiorities of Blacks. And we've even had some go as far as to say that Black people are human and white people are either subhuman or mankind, or white people are not full humans. And we know that not to be true, because white people can reproduce, and they can reproduce with Black people. And then the offspring of a white person, the Black person, has the ability to reproduce. So they the same type of human we are.
Make it make sense.
I'm just saying that the science proves it.
What? But you know, science ain't, well, science ain't really our thing.
Well, it is, but just looking at the horse and the what is it, the horse and the donkey that makes the mule. The mule is sterile.
Well, anytime you get two species, two animals, if they're not the same species, even if they can reproduce, the offspring is going to be sterile. Nature has a way of protecting its creations.
Right. But that's how you know something is of a different species than you. So all of the Black supremacy rhetoric that is saying white people are not the same type of human being, we always disproven, because Barack Obama got kids.
That's crazy. That was a wild statement, Joseph.
Drake got kids.
Drake does have kids, several of them.
Like, think about all the mixed people you know that have kids, the mixed race people that have kids. They've reproduced. So therefore, whatever race their parents was, both are in the same species.
But you know, it goes back to, and I just circle back around to, what is the message that's being presented here? Because I get that Black people want to feel, you know, when you've been beaten down for so long, you want to feel good. You want to feel elevated. You know what I'm saying? You want to feel like you're on top. I get that. At what point do we begin to ask the questions to get at the truth of the matter? Like, are we allowed to really dig into the truth of the convo? Because, like, even looking at the reviews of the book, which I don't have them up anymore, but even looking at the reviews of the book, you have a lot of people saying that it's great. You have a lot of people saying that it's trash, but then nobody's really talking about the context, the content What is in the book that makes it great? And it's the same thing when you hear people having these conversations about black supremacists, or white this, black that, white, whatever the case might be. Where are the conversations about the substance, the content, the what is actually being said? What are the implications of it? What does it mean? Who's it centering? Like, where are those conversations at?
Well,
if you come up to me as a pro-black person and tell me that you want to talk about black supremacists, that conversation is not going to go the way you think it's going to go, just because I have questions about what you mean by that.
Well, it's not going to go too far, because how do you properly label what a black supremacist is? What makes black people supreme? Because we know what makes white people supreme in the context of white supremacy. They are the dominant group amongst all other groups. They kicked everybody ass. That's what makes them supreme. They're the supreme ass kickers. They put foot in ass better than anybody else. So that's what makes them supreme. They have a war machine that nobody on earth can match right now. Other countries have to come together to face the white American war machine. And if all white groups decided to connect and put all their war machines together, it'd be even crazier. So what do we have that could top that will actually put us in a true supreme place?
You asking me?
Whoever, come on, John, chime on in, my brother. Because we talking about the concept of black supremacy, because the gentleman is saying black people are supreme, but his idea is, like we said earlier, supreme off the accomplishments. But we'll just break it down, like the idea of black supremacy overall. Like, why are we even really flirting with the idea of black supremacy instead of trying to actually become a powerful supreme group?
Because the way black people have been programmed is to do everything white people do, and mimic them. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? We really just sit back and try to become the best versions of them. And so, for instance, we just had Juneteenth, and a lot of black people are out here celebrating Juneteenth like it's July 4th, but it ain't. But black people want their version of July 4th. So they try to turn Juneteenth into something that ain't. And so you start talking about these, this concept of a black supremacist and so forth. Well, then where are you, like you said, like I came in on, what are you better at?
Right.
In terms of society, like you've given up your spiritual systems, so you're gonna be a better Christian. You know what I'm saying? You want to be a better evangelist. It's like evangelist. It's like it's really it comes from a place of inferiority. Like
that's what Jesse Lee said.
Yeah, it really, but it's a sense of inferiority in terms of like not thinking that you match up, and because you only want to be supreme, like create that sort of notion if you operate from a place where you want to win the game of propaganda, you want to win the war on and basically it's like bullies are bullies because they're really scared of everybody else, so they do bully shit so nobody would be confident enough to face them. So if you're trying to become a bully, you know what I'm saying? It really defeats the purpose, because when you undress the bully, you get to see that the bully himself or herself or whoever, the bullies are just, cowards that hide behind the image of some prestige that they've already were able to create just on a false sense of security or a false sense of superiority. So that's kind of how I see that.
Yeah. But Jesse hit him with another bomb, or he hit him with another right hook. It was talking about voting, and he set him up with the voting for the lesser evil. Why? And they asked a good question that any smart person need to ask. If you want better for black people, you want to get the biggest impact out of your vote.
Mm-hmm.
So why are you continuing to vote for the lesser evil instead of coming up with something for yourselves to do for yourselves, to better yourselves, instead of continuing to vote for the lesser evil and get nothing?
That's a good question.
But the problem is Jesse Lee not supposed to be able to hit him with a question like that and stump him like that and get him like that. Like, it's supposed to be the other way around. Like, you let the slow dude in the classroom get you with a good one.
Well, and here's what I'm gonna give Jesse Lee a little credit, man. He's been around for a long time. He's a very cagey dude.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So he knows how to, and he already sizes people up before he bring them on the show. So the only person he wasn't able to catch in that, like you said, DC Young Fly, who's a comedian, quick witted, he's, been on shows where he has to use quick wit and improv and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And Tariq Nasheed is a very I don't think people give that brother enough credit for how intellectually, sound he is.
Right.
And his ability to, he has the gift of gab, so he can dialogue with anybody. Whether you're in the streets, whether you're, across the table from so-called intellectual, he can debate. He's one of the few brothers I've seen actually debate, the commentators on MSNBC, CNN, and so forth, and Fox News, and actually get the better of them, even though they're trying to mute his mic every other second.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be prepared to, come into an arena understanding that, the Jesse Lee Petersons, what's the brother that we Larry Elder, like,
yeah, Thomas Stoll.
Right, they're all cagey at creating situations for which they're prepared to jump out the box. So the fact that Jesse Lee Peterson was the one that introduced the talking point means he already knew how he was going to respond in the talking point. So he already knew he was laying a trap, and he also saw that he got under that brother's skin. Mm-hmm. And like before, last week we were talking about black men don't really understand, like the brother didn't understand how to talk to black women.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesse Lee Peterson kind of operates like that. So he knows how to get under your skin. And once he gets under your skin, he basically controls the conversation. So
that's why, like I said, when you won, you was off. But like I said, Pat, he talked about blacks and whites getting along in the past. He talked about the black people being the main group that killed black people, proximity crimes. But he also talked about the 4,000 blacks that owned slaves. And it was interesting how he posed it to him. Mm-hmm. It was like, did you know that over 4,000 blacks owned slaves? And he was like, well, the dude was like, well, no, I ain't read about that. And he was like, well, a host on my somebody that was on my show, or I heard another host say it. Well, I bet you didn't read about that. He's trolling you right there. Jesse Lee ain't read that either.
Right.
He telling you right there. I heard this is what somebody else said. This is what I heard somebody else said, and I'm just saying to use it in here. But I know you ain't look it up, and I ain't look it up either. But I'm gonna just throw this shit up, brother. Nah, I don't know about that. Why?
It's kind of like the small genital conversation. You get defensive when people put you in a position to respond to certain things. And instead of actually being, like I said, that's when Jesse Lee had known that he had gotten under his skin at that point in the conversation. Mm-hmm. To talk about black. Go ahead, Jeff. Go ahead, Pat.
No, I was gonna say it's funny because he kept saying, "Where's your source? Where's your source?"
Right.
He told you his source.
Somebody else.
Right.
Somebody else.
Yeah.
So I agree with what PC was saying. Go ahead, PC. I was amen cornering, but I forgot my mic went on.
But quick point: the fact that he's saying where your source, knowing that brother didn't know about that coming into this.
Yeah, that brother should have slid him. I mean, just take
rock him, sock him. That's crazy.
Right, here's my source right here. Boop pop. You know what I mean? I'm not inciting violence to anybody. Just
it's for educational purposes.
Educational purpose on how you handle that in the streets. But But I thought it was hilarious. Like, I enjoy watching Jesse Lee Peterson sometimes just because I see how people are unprepared to be on his platform. And it's not because like I said, he's a dangerous person. Don't get me wrong. It's dangerous to have a person like Jesse Lee Peterson because they become they become the buffer between getting to, or actually, if you want to have the debate, you shouldn't be having it with him, but he's going to be the buffer between you and the people you're supposed to be having this conversation with. And then he undresses people to the point where they never get there. You know what I'm saying? And this young brother, unfortunately, he wasn't prepared for to step into the lion's den. And he got a lesson taught, and hopefully he can rebound from this, be better prepared in the future for, different conversations. But from what I see, I'm not even sure if he even realizes how bad that shit looked. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely a bad commercial for the book.
Bruh, he should
put his book down.
He should do some.
He just had to stand the whole time.
Bruh, he should have did some Watergate and broke in there in the middle of the night.
hey, then Jesse also hit him with, y'all keep harping on your past. You don't need to know your past. Why do you need to know your past? You really don't need to know your past because all your past do is making you angry and making you think about the past. You're not moving into the future. So why do you need to know your past? Well, you need to know your past so you can move forward. Okay, like we've all heard that same saying. So give us something different on why you've actually sat down and thought about why we need to know our history.
I mean, he wrote a big ass book on it. He shouldn't be able to have some examples of how utilizing lessons from the past prepare you for the future. But go ahead, Pat. I'm sorry.
Cause what you just that section genuinely irritated me. I'll be honest about that. I was laughing, chilling, and just kind of brushing it all off, and then that section came up, and it actually bothered me, because if you are not able to answer that question about the importance of the past, you really should not be talking. You're not ready,
right,
to be in this space, and that's not a shot to anybody. That's just the truth of it, because that's like the number one response you're gonna get whenever you open your mouth to talk about Black history, especially if it's anything negative with regards to white people.
Right.
That's the very first thing that's gonna. So how are you not prepared for the very first? That thing is automatic. Like that's coming. Like you can set the sun to that. It's coming.
Why do you need to know your history?
Well, how do you not know how to answer that? And then to not even be able to, because Jesse was giving them opportunities. When he's like, okay, so you don't need to know what happened yesterday. And Jesse's like, no, you don't need to know what happened yesterday to be happy. Like, you can't even explain. So that's like on a personal level, you can't sit down and say, Jesse, so if it wasn't for all the you've been doing for the last few years, you wouldn't be sitting. You think you still be sitting here right now? That's easy.
I mean, if it wasn't for white people being in power, you wouldn't have no white to kiss, right? So
so we can just go down the list. Jesse, who is the last 30 people you interviewed? So you think you'd be sitting here interviewing me if you didn't interview them last 30 people? It's so easy at that point. But even then, there also needs to be a level of acknowledgement. Jesse is right. You don't need to know your past to be happy.
And you don't need to know your past to revolt.
So go ahead, PC.
No, I mean, you look at all the people that did revolt in the past. They didn't know history. You know what I mean? They just going to it. You know what I'm saying? They got Nat Turner. They jumped in. They got to it. You know what I'm saying?
The Saxons, when they sacked Rome, they couldn't read and write like that,
bruh. Right? You know what I'm saying? It's so. But this is the problem with when you have people who identify as intellectuals in this particular sphere. They don't really understand the root issues of why you should fight. See, people take a lot of things that like from the 60s and the 70s when you had the Panthers and you had other outfits, and they were saying how important it was to study. That's cool, but all they became, you look at who came from that, and you look at they became mayors, they became politicians, they became professors. The last thing they became were fighters. After that, they didn't take that none of that to the next generation to teach that this is how you fight and rebel. Now, I understand that they were under assault and there was a war. They had open government contracts on these people. I understand that part. But if we're talking about, being at war and you talking about black supremacy versus white supremacy, that's a war. Then people transpire in wars. And so to see a lot of the people who identify as being revolutionary scholars or whatever, they fall short because they're hoping to inspire somebody to do the things that they don't want to do themselves, and it just never works.
Right, we got to be honest about this, and I know this might trigger some people. If you were trying to raise a generation of fighters, don't teach them history.
Just teach them how to fight.
Teach
right.
them how to fight. That's what they.
That's
when
it.
you trying to create generals, teach them strategy, teach them a limited amount of history, but for the most part, you're teaching strategy and how to lead people. When you're teaching officers, teach them how to lead people and how to fight. You're trying to raise frontline grunts, teach them how to fight. The only people that need to know history are the people that are going to be shaping society.
Yep. You can't intellectualize yourself out of oppression.
So to that, stop trying to get everybody to be the next Martin Luther King or Malcolm X or John Henry Clark. None of those people were fighters.
Right. Right. You're emulating the intellectuals into because we call it a fighting spirit. Right. Now, but think about that. The black people have this fighting spirit. Okay, but when we're going to have like the actual physical fighting ability and physical, like get results from physical confrontation.
When are we going to have fighting behavior?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Not just the ideas.
The spirit is strong, but the flesh is weak. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like because another thing, like the Dr. James was getting at, talking about the superiority of our resilience.
Oh, so we good at whoopings, we bounce back from that. It's like every narrative I've ever seen, when they're portraying black people as slaves, when they just start singing, and that singing is where people draw their power from. Get the fuck out of here, man.
Because I mean, if the idea is going to be a true idea about black supremacy, then okay, what did white people do to become supreme? Because I'm sure it wasn't writing books. What Pat was talking about, you're building your army. Where's the army? Revolutions are bloody. To be free, you have to fight for it. Physical confrontations will get you your freedom, because physical confrontations got you your oppression.
Man, they took a bunch of drug addicts and ex-cons and fought for their liberation in this country. The conversation about how to to even gain liberation was done in pubs. And most of the time, that was their social media. It was done in pubs. Bunch of drunk white men sitting around talking about they're tired of paying taxes and they're trying to own their own money and their own land, and they're tired of paying tributes to the king. And that's where they got their fight. And most of the people couldn't fight. So it was one person who came in with an idea from a newsletter. Thomas Paine? Well, this newsletter. And they would just basically circulate that, and they say, "Well, read that. What does that mean to me? What does it mean?" And then that's how they started it. It wasn't and they didn't start it like it wasn't like you talk about the Thomas Jeffersons and the Ben Franklins and things of that nature, but the main character, George Washington, you don't see none of his books. You don't see none of his writings. You know what I mean?
And let's be clear here. I'm not saying that you raise stupid people that can't do nothing but fight. But because you can teach people how to think critically and how to be on the level that they need to be at without teaching them all of the other stuff. People need to learn what they need to know to do what they need to do. And I know a lot of people don't vibe with that. They think you should teach kids everything. As somebody that has been in education for a number of years, PC's been in, all three of us have been in education for a number of years. It is impossible to teach someone everything.
You don't know everything.
It's an impossibility. You teach people how to learn, how to think critically, and then you give them what you need them to know directly. What I'm saying is that we need to directly give Black people a segment of the Black population. How we determine what this segment is, that's a conversation for a bunch of people. But a segment of this population needs to be corded off, sectioned off, and taught how to fight, how not to be afraid of confrontation. And that's not just on a physical level, although that's the most terrifying aspect of it for most of us, but also on a social level, on an economic level, on a mental level, a psychological level, a biological level. We need frontline warriors across all the domains of human activities, and all of those frontline warriors need a specific skill set and a specific mentality to go in there and engage in combat that's going to cost them dearly. And what we need to do on the back end is, if you're not one of those people doing that, guess what? All the rhetoric that America gives to its frontline soldiers, you're the best, you're the greatest, you're the boom, boom, boom. We need to do better on the back end than America does when the soldiers come back. But before they leave, the soldiers feel like superheroes. I'm serving my country. I'm maintaining balance. I'm this, I'm that. Cops, when they go into the academy, I talk to a number, they feel like superheroes. They going out here to do some real. When was the last time you talked to a young Black person getting ready to go out and engage in some sort of social or systemic act of violence to uplift their people or disrupt the status quo, that really understood where they were going, what they were doing, and felt like a superhero while they were doing it? You don't meet those people, because we're not talking about goddamn Facebook and YouTube.
Well, I'll tell you, we do have them, but they just like to drill on each other. But
we have to understand too, talking about building a Black nation, every nation has a warrior class, every nation has a military.
Well, we don't have a culture that feeds that. Our culture,
but we can't talk about being supreme, true supremacy.
Well, I mean, just to go back to something Pat was saying, right? when they go out there, they're taught that they're doing this for nation and God, so they feel like there's also a spiritual component behind it.
Right.
We do everything to divorce ourselves from that spiritual component, except for the superficial cats that show up at church every Sunday or show up at the mosque. But you outside, doing damage to your body, doing damage to the community. So how much are you even, practicing the spiritual component of that? Because, here's the thing. Most Black people are white supremacists anyway. And you know what I'm saying? Like, if we talk about religion, we practice the religion of white supremacy. And that's why, like, the same spirit, you'll see it during a football game. You'll see it when your favorite team is in the basketball championship. But we don't feel like Black people are worth fighting for. And that's the biggest thing, the cause of Black. Like, you talk about Black people fighting for Black people. If it ain't against Black people, then we ain't trying to. And that's just the bottom line. So you can't be superior if you don't even feel as though the people that you are supposed to be fighting for are not worth it. And there's not a cause worth it. And most unfortunately, that's the plight that most people have, even the dude that wrote that book.
Hey, I mean, but you know, in a serious, realistic fashion, as far as building power, buildings, or even challenging supremacy. You know, like I say, when you think about nations, nations have a military. I know somebody would probably point out Japan, but before Japan
Man
let
has
their
a
military go.
military.
But right, but you know, they were like they let their stuff go. But either way, right? But you have to be able to fight force with force. You have to be able to look at the world in a realistic sense. Like I was having a conversation with somebody earlier this week, and I was talking about. I was telling them, not going into full detail about these breakdowns, but why we do these breakdowns. But I was talking about that in context of the practical application of history, of how we teach history. I'm annoyed with how we teach history. I'm annoyed with how we teach history because we only teach it to just know it, not to use it. And we keep telling our youth to know your history, know your history, know your history, know where you come from, know where you come from. And like in that, we're not even telling them to know your Black American history. We're trying to get them to know an African history that they have no connection to, because you don't even know where you're from in Africa. You can't just say I'm from West Africa. So you want them to be connected to a history that's not even connected to them, because you're not even talking about Black American history. All right. So once they learn this history, what are they supposed to do with the information? Now what? I know Black history. Now what?
You always have a feature spot on Jeopardy in February.
Well, because I mean, like Black people have to be serious. We allow our scholars to die broke. Think about it. We allowed our scholars to die broke. So at the end of the day, is it just knowing history or being able to practically apply this information, or be able to use this information in conjunction with some kind of skill sets that we should have or we could gain?
Well, I think, and I'm stuck now, so let me go back to the people that would say, "What about Japan? What about it?" Because Japan had a military, a very fierce military, for most of its history. When they relinquished their military after getting nuked,
Right. We'll leave that part out.
right? Like when they relinquished their military after getting nuked, they doubled down, they went inside of themselves, and they came out an economic powerhouse, an economic might. So they were able to defend themselves using their economic systems. It was going for anybody to try to Japan, because they didn't have a military. Even though they did, they didn't have a sizable one, or one that was equitable to what they had. But for anybody to go in there and try Japan at that moment during them times, you was gonna be your own nation's economics, because they was touching everything.
Mm-hmm.
So there was they found a way to de-incentivize with them through their economic might. So if we're gonna say, well, what about Japan? Okay, so what tools do we have at our disposal to keep people from us? Because we know what Japan has, you know, and Japan still has it. Right now, is people picking Japan over the PS5. Where that come from?
Hey.
So what do Black people, what do we have that's gonna keep people from? All right, I just had I forgot what I was gonna say to people, but I got stuck on that just when you said, what about Japan?
Well,
Hey man,
we do have,
you know, somebody was gonna say, well, what about Japan? They don't have no military. They gave up their military.
well, I mean, listen, if all of us just start spending our dollar on this day, the American economy will feel our might and they'll bend to our will.
Hey man, did you see what it was
it.
in Finland or Switzerland?
Yeah,
So
we
it's one
saw
of
it.
those
We
countries
talked about it
where
earlier.
the women didn't go to work and they did a strike and the labor force didn't feel it. Yeah,
They said, what did they say? One of the companies said it felt good to get some damn work done today.
well, it's like a lot of times we overestimate ourselves at being only 13 to 14% of the population. We overestimate ourselves because white America can rely more on the Hispanic population and the Asian populations to fill in the gaps where we go missing.
White America can depend on white America to fill the gaps. Like you talk about like the $1 to $2 trillion we control, but the American economy is like $150 trillion. I mean, they owe like $300 trillion to China. So, you know, it's a drop in the bucket in terms of that economic might. And then factually, black people just don't know how to get along enough to do anything collaboratively that would control, or you know what I'm saying, or to build towards something. Like we don't, like all these other nations we talk about, and I get why, but all these other nations, they have this point in time where they, even if they're at each other's throats, they will get on code and do something because whatever they're doing is being threatened by an outside entity. China does it. Japan does. Hell, the Asian countries don't even get along, but they came in unison when where's the brother that got killed in Brooklyn? I mean, that got hit up in Brooklyn coming down the steps. I forget the brother's name, but it was a Asian cop that shot him. So you had Asians from all different parts of the country go to New York and protest his trial. He ended up getting a suspended sentence by the black politician that they said they were voting in by the defense attorney, prosecutor that they said they was voting in because, you know, they didn't like what happened to Eric Gardner. So, you know, this is the stuff that we deal with. And then, you know, the Asian hate crime bill. All Asians from different countries who didn't get along, couldn't stand each other, got on board collectively and pressured these politicians, and these politicians came up with that bill in like 2 months. So, you know what I'm saying? Black people don't know how to get on code, and we'll never be able to get on code because we have been taught and programmed so long to be not just regularly individualistic, or be tribal in ways that don't benefit nobody. So we don't even understand how to come collectively together because you have people you just can't talk to. I was just recently at a Juneteenth event and, you know, trying to talk to you know, and we had a good event, but just trying to talk to some of the brothers and sisters who had issues with some of the things that went on at the event. You just couldn't get past their emotion of their need to be right. Instead of saying, you know what, the propaganda works and over here, this, that, and the other, let's ride with this. We can have a back channel conversation about things I disagree with. No, I wanted to do it in front of everybody because I wanted to tell everybody that I was more educated than you. And those cats that was talking on the stage didn't know what they're talking about. And this sister over here saying we need to change the energy in here because, you know, we can't have a revolutionary moment. So
they plan on having a revolutionary moment.
No. I'm just saying, you can't have a moment where you start speaking and appealing to certain things, and it was just that one aspect of it.
Gotcha.
Without somebody feeling as though I need to be heard. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about like the leaders of all these other communities. We don't know the leader of the Jewish community. I mean, I know what they talk about over there in Israel, but the leader of the Jewish community here in America, you don't know who's the leader of the Jewish community. You don't know who the leaders of Japanese, Asian, any other Chinese. You don't even know their emissaries. So, but we can always point to black leaders, can't we?
Rappers.
Right. And so forth. And somebody in entertainment, you know.
Somebody from the Democratic Party. Black leaders are always from those groups, either rappers, athletes, entertainers, or somebody from the Democratic Party. Why is that?
I won't deny you.
Right.
I'm just saying. But it's just this interview, like a lot of other interviews that I've seen with Jesse Lee Peterson. Y'all letting a slow kid get the best of you all. And it's funny to me. It's hilarious, but it's sad at the same time because you have all these people who are supposed to be black activists and people fighting on behalf of black people, and they get into this space. And for one, like we say, they don't really know the information when they get in this space. Two, they get flustered, they get rattled. Jesse throw them off the game. Jesse be talking that bullshit, and he be getting the best of them, and they come in there mad, or they leave mad because they went in there serious from the beginning. First of all, you signed up to talk to Jesse Lee Peterson. If you're trying to get a serious message across to black people to wake, if you're serious about waking people up, why are you on Jesse Lee Peterson show?
Good question.
He's a village. Jesse is the village idiot. Jesse is the sick dog that white folk keep in the back, that he just sick on black folk because they know he gonna do whatever for the bones. Like Jesse is the dog. He don't even get the meat. He get the bones after all the other white dogs eat the meat. And Jesse's happy with that. And y'all letting him get the best of y'all.
No, actually, I think Jesse's the Joker. Like the real life, the real life version of Joker, but his nemesis isn't Batman, it's any black man.
So, you know, I love white people. White people are the greatest, and white people this and white people that. I told you, man, that man see white when he closes his eyes. Hey, I appreciate you being en route, my brother, and then coming home and jumping back in the in-house studio, my brother. You know, dedication.
Hey, that's what we do, man. You know, that's you know, I mean, we listen, man. You know, I gave my word when you asked me to come on, and listen. This has been a blast, man. Having the conversation with you two fine gentlemen. You know what I'm saying?
That's what we do,
man.
I had I got a chance to do a Juneteenth event today, talk about Juneteenth and the Emancipation Day here in the city. So I got a chance to do that on Juneteenth as well. So mine was less contentious than yours. I was
I thought somebody was waiting at that. I said, meet me outside, bro. I looked, this chair was empty. I said, outside. It was all good though.
FetLifeStation.com, 2 p.m. right?
2 p.m.
2
brother.
p.m. So right after this, FetLife Station. Right after this, you might be 8 minutes late, but right after this, and the link is in the description. Plus, I put a link in for FBI crime stats as far as violent crimes by race and sex, so you can see how people are violent against their own people. So yeah, just in case you need to know that. Patrick Irvin, thepaxinc.org. I mean, thepax.org. I keep getting that wrong. Thepax.org, PACTS.org. Make sure you check out the website. Check out our codes of conduct. Like this video, subscribe, share, tell your auntie about it, tell everybody about it. On the Shoulders of Giants, we on the way up. 100,000 subscribers, here we come. And make sure y'all help us get there. So we'll holler at y'all.